Now let's move on to Israel. Okay, we now know about the Persian Empire, how they managed their system and why they are so effective. Okay, now let's talk about Israel. So remember that we read the Bible, and the Bible came about because David needed to legitimize his rule. And after the Bronze Age collapsed, David created a Davidic kingdom in the Levant because Egypt, Anatolia, Mesopotamia were preoccupied, right? But because the Levant is so important, this Davidic kingdom doesn't really last that long. It lasts for like 80 to 100 years, okay? After Solomon, David's son, dies, Israel is divided into two parts. The northern kingdom, which gets conquered by Assyria, as well as Judah, okay, Jerusalem, which tries to maintain the Davidic kingdom, but doesn't last very long. At this time in history, the Israelites are being pulled in different directions, okay? The Anatolians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, because they're strategically very important. And so what's really hard for these empires is, how do we maintain control over Jerusalem? Okay, and they try different techniques. They try burning down their city centers, okay? So the northern kingdom was destroyed. You might have heard of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. They tried taking hostages, okay? But because this region is so volatile, nothing really works. And so the Jerusalem, the Israelites keep on rebelling. Okay? So this is the kingdom of Judah. And what happens is, for the longest time, the Babylonians are trying to deal with the Israelites. Okay, so they take hostages. Okay, they take hostages, like thousands of them, and move them to Babylon, where they become scribes, where they become farmers, where they become merchants. Okay, but again, the region is so strategically important that Jerusalem, the Israelites, they switch loyalties all the time. Eventually, the Babylonians are so pissed off that they decide to burn down their temple. Okay. And so, at this point in history, the Israelites are now gone. Okay, does that make sense? The Israelites are gone now. 587 to 6, we don't know when, but Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem because they cannot, they tried many techniques to try to control Jerusalem. They can't do it. The Israelites are too rebellious. But it's too strategically important, so they destroy. So they decide, you know what, screw this. We'll just destroy the city. Okay. So when this happens, okay, this is really important to understand. The Israelites are gone. Okay. The people are still around, but the identity of the Israelites are now gone. 539, Cyrus the Great conquers Babylon. Okay, and he says, "I want the Israelites to return to Jerusalem." It's called the Edict of Cyrus, all right? And this is celebrated in the Bible. What is controversial is, why would he do such a thing, okay? Because again, the Israelites are now gone. The Israelites who went to Babylonia, they may still keep their religion a bit, but they no longer have their land. They have changed as a people, okay? So as an Israelite, you pray in the temple, but the temple is now destroyed, so now you pray in the synagogue, okay? So the people have changed a great deal. So the question now is, why would Cyrus the Great go to Babylon and say, you know what, I want you Israelites to return to Jerusalem. I want you to reconstitute the nation of Israel. Why would he do that? Okay, so this is going to be a debate that will never ever end, okay? So the Bible tells us that Cyrus the Great did this because God told him to do that. Really simple. God says, I love my people, the Israelites, send them home. Okay, and Cyrus the Great says, yes, of course, you're the great God. I'll do so, okay? Guys, that's how it happened, okay? All right, so there are different explanations. Maybe the idea is that Cyrus wants to show all the Persian Empire, I'm religiously tolerant. You can practice your religion, you can celebrate your religion. That's what the Persian Empire is, an open, tolerant, generous empire, okay? That's true. What's also true is that Cyrus thought himself as a righteous and merciful king who wanted to be generous to everyone, okay? So he saw the Israelites want a home, he says, well, then go home, okay? It's also possible that there's a faction within the Israelites who supported his Babylon takeover, okay? I don't know if this is true, it's probably not true, but we consider that as a possibility. That the Israelites in Babylon supported his takeover, and so to thank them, Cyrus said, fine, I'll give you back Jerusalem. Another possibility is that when Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, he discovered that, you know what, these Israelites are really good administrators. And this is true throughout history because remember, the Israelites had their Bible, and their religion requires them to study the Bible. And as we discussed, the Bible is one of debate, openness, asking questions. And so these are very literate intellectuals. And they rise up very high in the Babylon administration. But this is true throughout history where Jewish people will rise very high in all empires, including the Islamic Empire, including the American Empire, okay? I think the best reason for it happening is divide and rule, okay? So the idea is that you need to control the Levant. Because the Levant gives you access to Egypt, which is historically the wealthiest part of the world, okay? Whoever controls Egypt controls the world. So what you do is you set up a group of people in the Levant that are only loyal to you. Okay, does that make sense? Okay? You set up people in the Levant that only exist because you, the empire, allow them to exist. If you, the empire, did not support them, then the locals, everyone in that region would get rid of them right away, okay? And that's why we have the Jews. So the Jews were invented by the Persians to control the Levant. The Jews is actually a Persian term, okay? So before the Jews were, of course, the Israelites. Now we have the Jews. All right, so this is Jerusalem. And as you can see, what's really important to understand is that this is actually only a really small part of the Levant. But this part is specifically for the Jews. And it's part of this Persian province called beyond the river. Okay? And they call it the province of Yehud. That's why we have the term Jews. Okay? Because they are part of the province of Yehud. And what's really important to understand is they're surrounded by enemies. The Samaritans are Israelites who have stayed in the Levant. Okay, do you understand? So most people around them are in fact Israelites who adapted to local circumstances. And that means that they practice different religions. That also means that they married foreign women as well. But they still consider themselves as Israelites, okay? Right? Does that make sense, guys? So, what happens is that these exiles from Babylon, they come back and they say, no, we're the true Israelites. You guys are the false Israelites. The reason why we're true is we have stayed loyal to our religion. Okay? So what's going to happen over the next few decades is almost a civil war between Israelites who've stayed and Israelites who left but come back. All right? And this is what the Persian Empire wants in order to maintain stability in the Levant. Right? Because you have this small minority of exiles from Babylon who've come back and they're in conflict with everyone else. All right? This is divide and rule. Okay, so